Well, I make mistakes. Just for the hell of it, boys and girls, weather report for May 27th, 2022. 26,074 days old today.
How do you do it? What's your secret?
I just went and bought a bunch of weird Chinese vegetables, and I don't know what they're called.
Ancient Chinese vegetables.
Ancient Chinese vegetables. I don't know. I'm going to eat some of those. Anyway.
I don't know. Every time I eat vegetables anymore, my body reacts to them. So I think I reject vegetables.
So there was this guy, John Maddox. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He
sounds familiar.
He ran 2 after shows, one day after another. He's back. You know, he was gone for a long time. Now he's back. And I was listening to the first part of the second, I think it was the second after show. I was listening to like the first 20 minutes of either one. And I have never seen so much fucking scientific ignorance in one spot in my life. And that doesn't bother me. I mean, it's okay to be scientifically ignorant, but when you're sitting there talking about how you get it and nobody else does, and I understand everything about it, and I can see it, and it's so logical, plausible, and probable, and these evil atheists, they're just so dumb. All these scientists whose papers I read to support my own argument, those scientists, the ones that write the papers, are the ones that are wrong. But he's right. And they're all patting each other on the back. And then they had this, there's this bubblegum fucking nutcake who's got weird theories about a lot of shit. Bubblegum Gun, I think. Are you familiar with him, Jefferson?
That username sounds familiar. I don't know that I've ever talked to him.
I've only heard of him once or twice, but that's like very recently. So I don't know anything about him.
I think he got off on, it was racism or something like that. And John had to stop him because John realized that he was going too far. So John kind of pulled him back. And there's this other fool on there. Oh, God, he said, I was going to bring the videos up. What the hell was it? Hang on a second. Hold on. I'm not supposed to be playing the fucking videos. I'm supposed to be bringing them up. The shit there, he legitimately didn't understand ERV, so he was asking John questions about them. And John was like getting a few things right and a lot wrong. And it was just absolutely fucking amazing, the whole thing. I just don't know. I mean, I'm frustrated with stupidity and idiots, and especially idiots that don't know that they are. And I'm getting like kind of an end of life bitterness and lack of hope for the fucking human race, particularly the United States. I mean, does that happen to everybody eventually? Do they eventually beat us into submission?
If it only happens at end of life, I'm a little concerned about myself.
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, you're probably going. So the keyboardist for Depeche Mode died. I don't know his name, and I feel bad because I love that band. Suddenly at the age of 60. Today, I think, or yesterday. Did you hear this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of end of life.
I think he was only 60, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was only 60.
And then another tragedy being that Ray Liotta passed away.
Yeah.
Age 67.
Did he pass away in his sleep, I think?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
On some fancy schmancy island.
Oh, maybe it was Duvid or whatever the hell he is that had the weird conspiracy theory, or one of them was just going way off the rails on some bullshit. I can't believe some of the people that get together. Corporate operator Bubble, that one, he's a box of rocks when it comes to talking about evolution and science. I mean, they all were. It was just, I don't know. I don't even give a fuck anymore.
I went into it. Well, actually, I don't know if you guys ever pay attention to it, but Clubhouse Debates put a video out where they were catching up with J. Robin, and he's one of the more obnoxious kind of pre-supper types. And the segment that he put out, it was from yesterday. I think this guy had a channel open on the Clubhouse app for 9 hours, a room open, and I was in there for a tiny fraction of it, just in the chat portion of it, talking and making comments. And apparently I said something that triggered him. And this was in the middle of the afternoon. And he's like, "You're going to come in here, you're going to get kicked out." So
Trigger J. Robin?
I did. And he sent me an invite, so I jumped in there. And he proceeded to just lecture me and chew me out like he was my dad/boss for about 5 minutes or so, making no sense. Kid's cocaine habit is way out of control.
And what did you happen to say that triggered the otherwise stable J. Robin?
I think I'd said, here we go. In the comments, I'd typed something like, watch him cram philosophy to fit in with his his performative Christian fundamentalism.
Ooh, I like that.
And yeah, that pissed him off. So he was like, what exactly did I do? And I'm like, well, you're in here conflating ontological necessity with logical necessity. What exactly did I do? He just kept asking me questions. I would answer his questions, and then he would insist that I didn't answer it. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, pal. And then he started like, didn't you listen to the conversation that I was having with that other guy? And I'm like, well, you didn't really have a conversation with him, did you? He started to give like an argument for something, and then you interrupted him and then strawmanned him for the next 6 or 7 minutes, then kicked him out, right? And he's like, no, that's not. And I was like, well, I was working too, so I was a little distracted, which pissed him off too. So yeah, he would have to like mute me and then tell me how things worked in the previous. He repeated in a summary to the conversation he had with a person before me 3 times, and then would insist that I answer his question, and then he would lose his mind when I answered it. It was just like, I'm like, I don't know what you want, and until he finally got bored and kicked me.
Well, I think performative Christian fundamentalism, I think, really nails it on the head, because that seems to be all he and Darth do, in terms of always seeming to try to, you're just embarrassing yourself now, or blah blah blah. That kind of thing.
There's another ding dong out there that's working his way up the toxic tree. His name is John Lee, and Tom Rabbit's been kind of fixated with the guy for a while. And he's been having some discussions and stuff. And there was a video out today. I think they went live today. He had his own room, and he was being a lot more obnoxious and a lot more balls out pushy with people. And
some people just can't handle the power of the stream.
No, they can't. So watch it, Speed. Scott Duke is going to let that power go to his head, to that brilliant blue fedora, and yeah.
That's right.
But yeah, no, he was making claims about the recent shooting down in Texas. So like, it's fine that God allowed those kids to die.
Yeah,
that kind of just completely fucked up, right? And so yeah, I mean, you can tell the weather's warming up in most places.
That's just clickbaity bullshit, I think. But
yeah, and to me, that is performative fundamentalism, right? Like, because there's like, okay, I can show you in like 3 moves why that entails a bunch of problems for your theological outlook, but they just insist that that's not what's going on. It's like, I'm pretty sure you just, and Calvinists are really prone to this, because they'll be like, oh, we've got this contrarian kind of like hard to accept take on theology, and you got to be a real man to swallow. It's sort of like, our theology is the 30-year-old Scotch, or other Christianities. You got to have hair on your chest if to take it. And it's just like, fuck off with that shit. No, it's not. It's just bullshit.
Shit.
It's like Jim Bro kind of theology.
Yeah.
Can I get a copyright strike for playing a TikTok?
Oh, is that what that is? Is that TikTok's little theme?
No. It was something else. There's just this TikTok thing. So I don't know. Have you ever played one?
I've never shared one out, but
Well, let's try it and see if I get a copyright strike because I really don't give a fuck.
Yeah, it's Friday. Friday before a long weekend.
Yeah, let me see if I. Okay, so hopefully the audio comes through. I'm not sure if it will. Hang on a second here. Let me just do one thing just in case.
It means I only eat predators. Okay, do not put a prey animal on my plate. I will not touch it. Now, who's the number one predator? Pound for pound, it's spiders. Okay, spiders can take down animals 1,000 times their size. So I eat anywhere from 3,000 to 4,000 spiders a day. People are saying that's too many spiders. People are saying you shouldn't be eating any spiders. I'm saying you're listening to the beta FDA telling you need a balanced diet when the natural male diet was spiders until agriculture made us soft. Now, if you're interested in the all spider diet, you can check out my website. I've got some recipes for spiders as well as blueprints for spider traps. It's www.alphamalekingsbeeatingspiders.squarespace.com. That's www.alphamaleking.
Anyway, I thought that was hilarious. But I was talking about John Maddox, and then my son played this for me. So somehow he related the two together. I don't know.
He got it right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next time you get a chance to have an exchange with John Maddox, ask him, what he's up to in his all spider diet.
Yeah.
That guy didn't blink hardly at all.
Yeah.
That's the key. If you really on camera, if you really want to come across as a wackadoo, stop blinking.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't sure if this was a parody, and it is, or if it was real. and that's where we're at now. I don't know what I'm looking at.
I was wondering if it was a parody for a second.
Yeah, no, it's a parody. The guy's a comedian or something.
Oh, good.
Anyway, I will at least link the TikTok in my description. So, all spider diet. I love it. Oh, my sons realized it was a parody when they saw Squarespace.com. What the fuck is Squarespace? I don't know what Squarespace is.
Don't they help you make websites?
I don't know. I'm not
sure. I think it's a website building platform or facility.
Yeah, like Wix. Yeah, it's like a hosting thing or GoDaddy.
Well, they said if you didn't know it was a joke, you would know it was a joke because of that. And I'm not sure. Yeah. But my sons, of course, are in the business right now actively, and I'm a little out of touch. So I don't know where it's at, but I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, there was Squarespace, and I think they also had something to do with the Cash App as well. I could be wrong there. And they also, like a lot of these independent mom and pop vendors, like you'll see outdoors or whatever, are set up to take credit cards through Square or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, I love that Cash App. That's just totally revolutionized my life.
I never have any cash anymore. I just use the Cash App for.
Just use the Cash App.
Most people, yeah.
Go to a restaurant.
The guy who mows my yard, he comes by. He's ready this week. Sure.
Something I hate more than anything else. You go to a restaurant with like 6 people, and you're about to divide the bill, and you got one person that absolutely does not want to pay for that extra donut that somebody ordered. And they're just absolutely going to fucking fight you until you're under.
They don't even want to pay for 1/4 of that extra
donut. It's like, Jesus Christ! Can we just divide it by how many people there are and let it live?
Those are the types of situations where you got to get clearance. Like, look, we're going to do this thing where we're all going to go out and we're going to split the bill evenly. Yeah. Those of you who are opposed to that kind of mathematics just need to stay home.
Right.
Because we don't need you freaking out. Like if I can see sweat on your brow when somebody orders a second glass of wine or a second beer, you're out. You're done.
You can't afford dinner. Go home.
Yeah, you're wired too tight for this. Go back home and have yourself something cheap.
There you go.
That's what soup's for.
Anyway.
Or just argue with the pizza guy over the tip or something.
Oh God, yeah. I knew somebody that used to do the exact 15%, and I'm like, what? Why do you do that? It's just never mind.
It's easier to do 20.
It's easier to do 20. Yeah.
You can do 10% and double it. You know,
I just give them $10 or $20 or whatever the fuck I don't know, fuck percentages.
I always make sure that whoever's the waitress or the delivery person who's delivering food or whatever gets a good tip.
So I lived in a small iron mining community. Well, not so small, about 100,000 people, maybe 50 to 100,000 in northern Minnesota. And my dad, every 6 months or so, would decide on payday he was going to take us out to eat. But payday was on Friday, and my dad was what we call a weekend alcoholic. So he would be tuned up by 6 p.m. and we'd all get in the car and we'd go to dinner, and we'd go to some fancy restaurant. He'd pick the most expensive restaurant that he could find in that community, which wasn't much. It was a little bit above McDonald's. But then he would order something like spaghetti, and then he would have a problem with it. There would be something wrong. The noodles were overcooked. There wasn't enough sauce. There was something fucked up. And before any of us could even get one bite of our food in our mouths, we would be escorted out of the restaurant. They'd throw us out. And this didn't just happen once. This happened like 4 or 5 times, right? So it was like, please, Dad, don't take us out to eat. We're hungry. We're too hungry to go out to eat. We want to actually eat. And then the other thing about bohunks, or what do you call them, Slovenians or Polacks or whatever the fuck you call them in the rest of the world. We call them bohunks. I'm a bohunk. One thing about them is you sit down to eat, and 5 minutes after you, even less than that, 2 minutes after you sat down, Mom and Dad are having this knockdown, drag out fight, and somebody flips the table over, and you're sitting there. You got like one little fucking spoon of beans, that you're about to eat, and the table flips over, and then your kids run away, and oh my god,
this happens in restaurants.
No, that part happens at home. The flipping the table over, yeah. It was sort of a family tradition. You have a fight, you flip the table over, all the food goes on the floor. Kids run away, run upstairs, and whimper, starving to death. That was my fucking childhood, man. It wasn't good. I don't know. But yeah, I weighed 129 pounds when I was 18, so that was why.
Yeah, we never really had that experience. The food usually stayed on the table, which you can tell has the 129 problem was never my problem. It's always the opposite direction.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the opposite direction right now. That's why I bought all those vegetables. The clerk said, "Are you a vegetarian?" It's like, no.
What kind of vegetables did you buy?
I bought like bok choy. I bought leeks. I bought radishes. I bought tomatoes. I bought some weird Chinese thing, which we later identified as a Chinese cabbage. And what else? Onions and pea pods, and throw it all together and throw some fucking dressing on it, and that's a dinner. It's pretty good. I've been enjoying my vegetables lately. I don't know why. What the fuck's wrong with me?
Speaking of which, there's a new shawarma joint on the other side of town. I'll be leaving here in a few minutes to go to that to eat some Lebanese food. So
shawarma.
Yeah.
Sounds funny, but I had shawarma once. I think it was pretty good.
There's some places around here that try to pass off the stuff that's it's like stewed chicken or something like that. It's decently spiced, but it's like, no, if it's not spinning in a rotisserie, it ain't shawarma.
I think I had it at a place that served kind of the Turkish versions of Mediterranean food.
Well, Turkish is Mediterranean. Turkish
food is
great.
But there's other city or states that are countries that are Mediterranean.
Yeah, I've never.
This one was.
Most of our stuff around here, it all kind of gets like a blend of like Greek, Lebanese, Israeli, yeah. So.
I decided I don't like any Indian food at all. Like
none at all? How is that possible?
I don't know. There's just none of it that I've been able to eat. It has.
I've always enjoyed the Indian restaurants I've eaten out at. I've never really tried the make my own version of curry or anything.
How come you got big, Scott? Are you trying to take over? What the fuck is this part of it?
I think your cat changed the screen.
Is this the coup? This is the coup.
Yeah, this is how
It's
starts,
a kitty
yeah.
coup, if anything.
It's kitty coup. A kitty coup.
Well, guys, thanks for having me on here. Been fun chatting, but I am going to get out of here. I got a few things I got to get done. So.
Well, now you're making me hungry, Jefferson, with that
You
shawarma talk.
I shouldn't have said it out loud. That's what happened to me. Yeah, I made myself hungry and hungrier, and now it's time to go. So.
I kind of want my salad. Okay, thank you for showing up.
Yeah.
At least you showed up, unlike my other people who did not show. So,
have a good weekend, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
You too, man. I was going to ask him what he normally does on Memorial Day weekends, if it's an event or if it's just kind of a extra day.
So my son asked about a theory. Oh my God! Wait a minute. You were just here.
Okay, go ahead and let him in. There you go.
I had to change icons, log into my sock account.
You were just here.
You were saying what was I saying about shawarma now?
Shawarma, we're going to try some shawarma down this road or something.
God damn you two. I can't tell you apart at all. So my son was talking about some theory about Revelations being written by Romans about the end of the Roman Empire or the collapse of the Roman Empire. Have you ever heard this?
No, I've always heard that it's was written
Peter
about the Roman Empire, not really by the Roman Empire. In other words, it was coded language to talk about how God's essentially going to destroy the big power, this big satanic power, which was the Roman Empire.
Yeah. And that was going to bring about it was like the end of the world sort of thing because it was
definitely apocalyptic.
What happened was Peter took what Paul said about all foods being permissible, had some pork, it was undercooked, had a fever dream, and wrote Revelations.
Wow, yeah, it's bad pork. I could see that.
Were there little mushrooms growing on the pork?
That was the tapeworms. Remember, you can only get a tapeworm from pork. I'm just kidding. That's a bad joke.
No, but from what I've heard of Revelations, I'm pretty sure there were some mushrooms involved in that thing because
do those mushrooms? Can those mushrooms even grow in a Mediterranean climate?
I don't know. I don't think so. No, they need at least a drop of water.
Well, there's always dark places in.
Yeah, you could always grow them in an old tomb.
Yeah,
maybe you have to go inland to find the mushrooms you need.
I solved why Jesus' body was missing. Somebody wanted a place to grow shrooms.
Yeah.
They didn't want that cadaver in there. Like, oh, get rid of this. Yeah. We'll let the story just keep on going. But Josephus made a mistake here. He let them put Jesus' body in here. We already had an agreement to grow some shrooms in this place. So what's going on here?
They tossed it out.
Speaking of food, how come we don't have like Celtic food? I mean, like, how come you never go to this restaurant that's reputed for serving haggis?
Because it's an abomination.
I know.
It is.
It's like, why don't they have food that people like other than whiskey? Whiskey is, I guess, the food that everybody likes.
Whiskey's a food that everybody likes. Yes.
It's like when you go to an Irish pub and you're like, oh yeah, hamburger and French fries. Yay. Authentic.
Yeah. We used to hang out at Mary's Lunch in Evelyn, Minnesota, and she had a menu so that she could be open on Sunday. And then you'd ask Mary to make you'd order something off the menu, and she'd bitch at you like, fine. And she goes in her kitchen in the back room and makes you a sandwich. It was like, obviously she didn't really have a restaurant. She just did it for the liquor license. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, there was a place in upstate New York that we used to frequent. It was really good after a night out, getting drunk, it's a diner. It's called the Gold. I don't even know if it's still around. Might still be up and running. It's called the Golden, or is called the Golden Unicorn. And they actually, their pancakes were so big, they flipped them with an aluminum snow shovel.
Wow.
No shit.
Why did I have to? Man, before I had this diabetes thing, I would have loved to have a pancake that large.
I made the mistake of ordering 3 like an idiot. And when I first got them, and when you were uninitiated, they made them extra big, it seemed. But yeah, what they did was they kept clean snow shovels in like rinse water or something like that. And so when they were making the pancakes to flip them, you see the short order chef just flip them with a aluminum snow shovel.
Cool. So what is this? So Otangelo Grasso has been on this email with Snake is Right's new channel for debates.
Oh, he was. Why don't I get that part? I got the.
And he started spamming. He started with his bullshit spamming again.
His blog.
Huh?
He was spamming his blog. Like his
no,
blog
he was spamming the email about Snake was Right's new debate channel. He was spamming it with the evolutionary nonsense, from his blog and all that shit. And it's like, what the fuck, Otangelo? Anyway, so what the fuck? Oh, there was something.
Nephilim, he really objected to the thing, and because of, like, Snake was Right has a thing like in his signature where he says something about dog instead of God.
Yeah.
And Nephilim said, "You can count me out." Like people were actually wanting him to be on their debate network. Yeah,
and then there was some talk about prayer, and I said something about my hibiscus died, and I because I blasphemed God or something like that. And then Nephilim wrote me a personal email, and he says, "You've been asked not to contact me anymore. Why are you emailing me?" And I'm like, when the fuck did that happen? I never had a falling out with Nephilim.
He probably mistook you for someone else, but your hibiscus didn't die because you blasphemed God. You mentioned God. The hibiscus got offended and died.
Yeah, I think that was it.
Hibiscus are inherently atheist.
Oh, they are? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Very triggered atheists.
So are you sharing this screen, Scott?
Yeah, I'm sharing the screen. This is, I captured this when, I think it was the last weather report that we had, and Otangelo was right in the middle of the conversation that was going on, pops up with this stupid shit like he always says. And then I said, Otangelo, you're trolling. Stop that. And, that's all I did. That's all I said. But apparently this time he got mad. He said, "You could actually learn something from what I posted. Your worldview without God is bunk."
Yeah.
And then after I saw that you could learn from what I posted, I started laughing, and I finally got it under control. And then I just said, "Your worldview with God is not inspiring, ain't inspiring nobody. You're a poster child for what religion gets wrong." Yeah. And he goes on to say, "Well, it's my job. I have to do it." It's.
Yeah, I saw the part where he said it was his job.
I left that part out.
Just remember the trick with Otangelo, I've mentioned this before, is he's allergic to how questions. So what you do is you say, okay, it seems to be that your claim is that everything that we seem to share in the experience of, let's just say the states of affairs, is all ontologically dependent upon a deity existing. So how did you determine that?
Yeah.
He will give you an answer to why. He will not tell you how. He will give you his why. He will not give the how.
He strikes me as being a little bit on the spectrum when it comes to having a dialogue. He doesn't often respond to what you're actually talking about. He just
if I thought he was on the spectrum, I wouldn't expect engagement from him. But we have no reason to think he is. So
he's on one of those spectrums.
It's like when Rebecca, when she comes into the side shot, she'll go, "Hi, how are you doing?" That kind of thing. Like you're a human being.
Yeah.
And you're more than just your potential response to a convoluted argument.
Yeah.
And and also remember that fundamentally, he's one of those people that holds to because we have trees, therefore God, kind of mentality, and he hasn't figured out how that's problematic because you're appealing to something that you see in nature and then automatically inferring that it must be created by something, and that something is the thing that you think created it, and yet you can't demonstrate how that is the case.
Yeah.
you can't even rule out that it was that thing. So even if you could demonstrate that thing exists, you still technically have to demonstrate that thing actually makes that thing.
Well, I think creationists, pre-suppers, these anti-evolution people, all of them, they don't understand when you say if and you have an arrow and then then, like the implication arrow in logic, they don't get that part. They don't understand implication. They think all they got to do is state their premise and then state their conclusion, and they forget the whole part in the middle where you got to connect the two, your premise to the conclusion. You've got to have something that forces an implication, right? Otherwise, it's not sound logically.
Yeah. The other problem is they I think some of them do this, but I know it's been prevalent with my brother's pointed it out, and Hogtie Champs pointed it out that, like, if you guys are familiar with Jay Robin, who's a Dart Dawkins acolyte, and even Dart Dawkins does, I think he does this a little bit. They confuse logical necessity with ontological dependence, and they'll flip back and forth between those things.
Yeah,
and it's an interesting. Go ahead.
Would you mind taking a moment to explain the difference between those two concepts?
Oh, how did Hogtie Champ did a much better job explaining this. I'm pretty bad at it,
okay.
But like an ontological dependence or ontological necessity is like you've got to have something. Something being what it is dependent on something else being what it is. Right. So that thing being what it is ontologically dependent on this thing. This thing is ontologically dependent on that thing or things. Whereas like something that's logically necessary, you get into like contradictions like married bachelor.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. So an ontological is more like it can only be one of two possibilities, as opposed to epistemological, where one doesn't have to commit to something, right?
Yeah. Kind of.
Well, one goes to like, because you can do it. You can do logical. So you can do logical necessities. Like you can use hypotheticals. Like, and is it fair to say that in all worlds one could conceive of no gods existing or something like that? Or is there a way of conceiving of a world of no God or something like that? Then you kind of get into that. Now you're kind of getting into that realm of logical, whether or not a God is logically necessary, right? Or does a God need to be logically necessary? But ontological dependence is more towards but don't quote me on this, because again, no
worries.
My understanding on this isn't like, I do this all, this is all layman. So, but the ontological dependence is like, there was a rough analogy. Like in order to have bread, you got to have an oven to make bread. So bread is dependent. The ontology of bread being bread is dependent on there being an oven, even though there's multiple ways people can make bread, but.
And necessity it must be true in all possible worlds or all accessible worlds, basically, all possible worlds.
It's whether or not a proposition leads to a contradiction or not. I believe. Yeah. I think something to that extent.
There's a thing about accessibility relations in modal logic. Do you know anything about that?
No, I got into. Here's the thing about logic. I have a basic an introduction to logic book, and I got about 10 pages into it, and it is fucking Snoresville. I mean, logic is propositional logic. If you're focusing on it, is very dull.
Yeah, and there's always something on Netflix that you just rather see than read that book.
Yeah, it's some people refer to it as like a propositional calculus is another way of referring to. Either way, there's different forms of logic, obviously, but when you're getting into like logic tables and all that just gets.
Well, you're talking about the truth tables. They're pretty simple.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so simple. It's like, why do you need a whole book on it? Like a couple of pages should be enough to explain it.
Well, there's so many. Yeah. I mean, breaking down certain, it's when you use those truth tables to kind of like run someone's argument through a truth table, that gets kind of interesting, because when you start to use formal logic to break down people's vernacular and you try to break down all the parts of it and get to the conclusion, how one premise leads to the second premise or the third premise and then to the conclusion and all that. Yeah. From what I've heard, that can get kind of weird, just because you're sussing out what the person is saying and how they're saying it, and then trying to get what they're saying broke down and then put it in formal logic.
And what I find happens quite a bit is people in these theology debates will often take an ontological perspective on it and say, okay, if you're not saying the proposition is true, then false means you're saying it's the opposite. And no, my understanding of the propositional logic is all you're doing is accepting or not accepting what's proposed. And one of the, because it's very easy for people to fall into the black and white fallacy with that. So my understanding, like, if you're saying something exists or doesn't exist, like the proposition is it exists, and if I don't accept that, that's not me saying it doesn't exist. It's just me saying I'm not convinced it does exist.
Yeah, because that's getting to not to the actual whether or not it's actually true. It gets to the mental state of whether or what your attitude is given that proposition. And if you're not convinced, even if you're not convinced, you believe something to not be the case, isn't the case that it's not true. But propositions don't make things actual. They communicate what is, well, they hope to communicate what is actual to states of affairs.
One particular state only. So, and one example I used that I've had some success in getting some people to realize the black and white fallacy part is to say, okay, you've got two children playing rock, paper, scissors. The game's finished. One of them has won. So the proposition I give to you is rock, the one who chose rock is the winner. Do you accept the proposition? If you don't accept the proposition, there are still other options. So there isn't an obvious opposite to that. Yeah. So this kind of helps people to kind of say, oh, okay, so the proposition is only whether or not you accept it to be valid.
That goes to the mental states. The way that the way that parts of when you get into metaphysics, what metaphysics will do is they will look at the proposition like atheism and theism. There is this proposition: a god or gods do not exist. Then you have theism, which is a god or gods do exist. Those can either be true or false. There is no middle of the road when it comes to, if those are the case. They can't be. If it is true, then it's true. If it's not true, then it's just not true. It's false.
I think I'm going to need to ask a metaphysicist to run that over rock, paper, scissors now.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, they would say that it is true that the game is won this way, and it can either be won that way or cannot be won that way. But that's based on the objectivity of the rules of the particular game.
They change the nature of the proposition to fit their what they're trying to achieve. Then, okay.
Yes, okay. And that could be arbitrary, which means just on a whim, or there could be a reason why they're changing it. Oh, we don't like that particular rule in the game. Let's change it to this, so it might be a little bit more fair, or it might make things more difficult. That kind of thing.
Wow.
That's why I wish Danny was here. I think Danny would be better, or even like Nicola, to explain this kind of stuff. Their head is more savvy when it comes to those philosophical concepts.
It sounds like the metaphysicist type argument really gets into all this kind of nuanced stuff.
Yeah, when you're getting into ontology, and ontology is a specific branch of metaphysics, and that deals with the nature of things being what they are. Is this what it is? Is what it is because that's what it is? And you get into issues with the fact that when we are looking at things being actual, remember that we're also presuming that our senses are reliable when we're looking at these kind of things. And that's, that can be, I believe that philosophers do take that into account.
Okay.
The first problem is logic is the most abused word, I think, in the English language. People think that, logic is a mathematical system. It consists of these little atoms called A, B, C, which don't really have any inherent meaning at all. And you can put together a logical argument with A, B, C, D, whatever, P, Q, R, and you can tell whether or not it's valid, okay? And you tell whether or not it's sound because you accept the premises as being sound, as being true, right? And then you come up with this mathematics. Well, anytime you start to take the English language and form one of these fucking convoluted arguments for God or whatever, you're no longer doing logic, okay? What you're doing is, you're doing, what do they call it? There's a word for it. You're basically adding semantics and a whole lot of fuzziness to this thing. And Like you may accept all three premises and not accept the conclusion because they haven't made a proper inference from the premises to the conclusion.
Yeah, if all of your premises are true, then then the conclusion is true by default. But you can have,
unless you pull a conclusion out of your ass.
But you can actually have arguments where the conclusion is true, but none of the premises actually followed. So it's a non sequitur because validity doesn't give validity. It works. Validity helps with establishing veracity, but veracity is veracity. Validity is the structure that it works, and that the rules of inference seem to be applying or seem to follow from these premises. And because these three premises, let's just say it's three premises, it's not limited to three, sure, are accepted as being actually true, then by default, it cannot be that the conclusion is false.
Right. Like if I say if I have three cows, then I have more than one cow. Okay. That, that makes sense. But, making those kinds of inferences can get a little bit vague. So oftentimes you'll end up with an argument where you accept all the premises because the premises have a lot of fuzz room, for one thing, different ways of thinking about them, and you might accept them under certain conditions. But then they come up with the conclusion, and the conclusion somehow has introduced something that the premises didn't really account for, at least not in your mind or not in your way of thinking. And then they'll argue with you, and then they'll say, what premise don't you accept? It's like,
well, if I give you this argument, if it is the case I have a backyard, then the rainbow colored unicorn that shits gold bricks exists in my backyard.
Right.
It is the case. I have a backyard, therefore rainbow colored unicorn that shits gold bricks exists in my backyard. That is a valid argument. The problem is the premises about the problem is determining the merit of the claim of a rainbow colored unicorn that shits gold bricks.
Yeah.
And seems to be, at least from this argument, it necessarily exists because I have a backyard.
Well, that's John Maddox's argument for God. Basically, is the genome is really complicated, and it has all kinds of things that look like computer programs to him in them. Therefore, God. And
it's the same thing as he's the only thing he's doing is the tree. Therefore, God. It's the same reasoning.
And he sees it so clearly in his mind from his limited mind. It looks so clear to him, and he can't see around it and see why you might object to that. And if you object to it, he thinks you're an idiot because you don't see it as clearly.
Well, because he goes to something that we understand in states of affairs as being created, these languages that are created by human beings in order for these particular systems to do what they do. He's automatically concluding, giving that natural example and knowing that we have examples of human beings creating these machines that can do this. Therefore, there must be something like that in place that's doing that with the rest of the things that human beings do not create.
Yeah, what really kills me is they'll say that basically this machine, it's just like a machine, and it's just like something humans would create. But then in the next paragraph, they'll say, but humans can't create this. So
well,
wait a minute. So you're so you're using the analogy to what humans can make, and then and 2 minutes later you're saying, but humans can't make this. So how in the fuck are you using?
Or the only thing that can make it must be a God. And the other mistake, what I was going to add was, is automatically assuming that what it is that you observe, these states of affairs, or let's say reality for short, is necessarily created.
Right.
Right. We understand that things are products of other things, like trees reproduce, animals reproduce, we reproduce, that kind of stuff. But to say that all of the universe, the reality that we all seem to share in, is necessarily created is automatically presupposing that everything and anything must therefore have a creator. It's all creation, and it must have a creator.
And they even get that wrong because, humans are not something that can think of a table and have it happen. Humans have to get a hammer and some wood, and we have to use our fingers and our hands and all of that stuff. And so humans are not thinky sort of things. We are doey sort of things. We do stuff. And,
we can conceptualize the table, but we have to be able to, in order to take what's conceptualized and bring it into fruition or in some tangible sense in reality, or present it in some way in reality. We have to manipulate something outside of our mind to get that result.
Right. Well, our mind is our body basically, but we don't know that. We think of our mind as some separate thing that conceives of these things because we can imagine things that aren't there. And that, I think, is what was meant when Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge, and they realized basically humans have this extensional ability to imagine things that aren't there. So we confuse our mind as if it's something real in the world, right? We think it's something that has the same reality as a rock or a table. And that's where the confusion comes in.
Well, yeah.
Philosophy of the mind, right? But the truth of the matter is that your mind develops while you do things. When you come out of your mama, you're going like this and you're poking yourself in the eye. You're basically using your body to create your mind. And we use our body to make things. Okay, we actually do things in the world. We interact with the world. And somehow they separate mind from all of that as if it's an ontological element of its own. And then they extrapolate that to some super mind that is God, that somehow can make things happen just by thinking about them. And that's the whole fucking problem with religion, is none of that makes any sense.
So here's another issue that you can also bring up, and that this won't take me long, is if you ask a person whether or not a woman can choose to be pregnant or not, whether or not she can actually choose to get pregnant. And the best thing that you can do, when you actually think about this biologically, women don't actually choose to get pregnant. They choose, if it's consensual, they will choose to accept sperm inside their body, but they don't choose what happens to that sperm in their body. They don't say, I want you to use this to make so-and-so that looks like so-and-so, right? Women can't do that. They can only accept it, and then the autonomic responses, the physiology of her body kind of takes over in that process. If everything is set up right and she's healthy and there's no kind of blah, 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 any kind of these little circumstances or whatever, she can possibly conceive and carry a baby, full term and give birth to another human being. But she didn't choose that to happen. She just chose to accept the material that can possibly bring about that reproduction.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you can't choose. Reminds me of alcoholism, where alcoholics think they can choose whether to drink or not, and it actually ends up not being true, as we find out over the course of our lifetime after it fucks us about 50 times, and we realize that we can't just will shit to happen.
I don't know who this we is. Do you have a mouse in your pocket?
Well, we alcoholics.
We as an alcoholics, I know. Yeah, I just thought that was a little
people who have suffered from that kind of an addiction, basically where you feel that you have a choice and you don't. Your choice mechanism has been commandeered by something other than your thinky brain. Your thinky brain knows that you got to go to work tomorrow. You know that the wife's going to get pissed off at you. You know you're down to $5.75 in pocket change. And
is this testimony or is this a story?
Yeah. Exactly. It's
the premise for a blues song.
This happened to me so.
It's like when I was joking about the we thing, I was wondering if Speed would come back with, or Scott would come back with, guilty conscience, Jay. Jeez.
Yeah.
Anyway, I like what you were saying, Speed, about when we come out of the womb, we're building our own experience, and our brain's already working with everything we're doing. Like, I've been over the years telling people that, because a lot of people are trying to describe what is life and all this kind of thing mentally, and I've always thought it's consciousness enhanced by memory is a good place to start with it. And this is exactly it. It's about building life experience, and that, I agree. I think it definitely does happen right from out of the womb there. As soon as that first spark of consciousness is there, memories start getting.
Don't get me started on my freaking castle doctrine argument for abortion now.
You're what?
Oh, that's not where I was going at all.
I know, but I was wondering if I could strut my shit. You know how I am. I take over fucking people's channels.
It sounds good. Sounds interesting to me. If everybody else is okay with it.
No, I'm not going to bring it up. I'm not going to bring that up.
I've got a book on developmental biology, and one of the authors of the book, one of the professors, he did a little short video, and he talks about abortion and what embryos really are. And his whole point is, you don't know what the fuck an embryo is. When you're talking about it being a living being, you're just. I mean, he was basically telling people in a real polite way that they were full of shit.
What you
no
do
way in hell that this thing is a living being.
Well, my whole argument is that basically take them at their word. If I know that they're predominantly Christian and they're like a fundamental Christian, they're very, very conservative, and they kind of hold to this idea of like a man's home is his castle, sovereignty of private property, that kind of thing. Then you basically treat the other person, the woman, as a person, and that's a human, and that's an individual, and then the baby that's inside of her, that's another individual. And so the woman invited that. Well, she kind of threw up the flare and said, well, maybe the person will show up and maybe the person won't. But she accepted the material from the guy that she was with. So now she doesn't choose whether or not the person shows up or not, but there is the good possibility that it might. So now when the person does show up, now you've got her hosting this other person. And what they're saying by being pro-life is you as a person cannot tell that other person to get the fuck out.
Right.
And yet when you're on your house in certain states and somebody refuses to leave your property, you can gun them down and be fucking deemed righteous.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think AIG just had an article within the last 2 weeks about something about fetus is not a parasite or some fucking thing like that. They were going on about it.
Yeah, I like to use I like to use human to human, because if they're conservative and they go, it is murder, I'm like, no, you have to demonstrate the intent that the woman wants to kill the baby. It could just be the case that that person just wants that other person to go away. The fact that that person can't survive outside the womb or in this environment
is irrelevant.
Shouldn't be that other person's fault. I'm sorry, I can't accommodate you right now. But you invited me over. Yeah, but now I don't want you to fucking stay. Goodbye. Thunk.
Yeah.
Like exactly where now we get into that can drift into almost deontology, whether or not you have a duty to do that. So if you have someone show up at your house and they say, and you've had them over and they don't seem to ever want to leave, and then you go, you need to leave, and then they tell you, well, if I leave, I'm going to die, and you go, that's not my fault, that's not my problem. If you don't leave, I'm calling the cops, or I have a gun, leave now. And then you kick them out of the house, and then come to find out you kicked them out of your house and they did die that night. But you didn't know that, and you didn't know if they were telling the truth. But then it dives into, well, in this particular case, the woman could be said to have been possibly inviting another human over to the quote unquote party, her environment, and that person showed up. And now that you invited them over and you knew that in order to tell them to leave, that they are actually going to die. So it can kind of go down a rabbit hole.
I can't find that article by AIG. I should have read it. Silence.
Yes, I don't. I try not to just make my arguments to go, okay, I'm going to make this argument. I think it's going to be killer. I will sit there and try to even refute my own arguments. And I can tell you that when I'm on my vitamins, that can become a very dizzying experience. It's like, what was I thinking before? God damn it.
Yep.
I need to get a whiteboard to keep track of this shit.
I have whiteboards and they don't help.
Then you'll forget to put the cap back on the markers, and then you won't be able to use the whiteboard.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now I'll just go out and buy one of those smart boards and just hang it somewhere.
Cool. Jason Torn and I are going to talk about natural selection, just he and I, tomorrow.
Oh, no.
Noon Central.
That's going to be Boresville.
I don't think so. I think it might
be. Well, for you geeks, it's not going to be.
Hey, Jay, why don't we have a competing live stream, and we'll talk about the definition of atheism?
No. In competition with Speed of Sound, this channel will be titled Absolute Bollocks. Just to see which people refer. They'll go, okay, I want to hear a structure. I want to hear a conversation about natural selection between Jason Torn. And, Jason Torn seems like a very intelligent guy, very well read on some subjects, and obviously there's Speed who's very much into this. So it'll possibly be a very, very informative conversation about natural selection. And then you have Mr. J over here and Scott, and the channel is called Absolute Bollocks. Yeah, let's watch that instead.
Anyway, I'm a high
plan
school dropout who burned my brains out on drugs and alcohol. Remember that, and I will.
But yeah, but I'm not going to ad hom.
Okay. Anyway.
Not like I'm going to sit there and go, Speed doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about because he did drugs. And
Yeah, kind of like Leo said about me the other night. So Danny and Leo and somebody else, who's the third person, were talking about natural selection and me, and they were talking about Speed's idea. And Danny and the other person was very generous. And then Leo pipes up and like, fuck you, Leo. I'm like, and Danny sent me an email, and he wouldn't mind me telling you, he titled it "With Friends Like This."
Who needs enemies? Yeah.
Who needs enemies?
Yeah. Who with friends like this, ... Yeah, we know where that goes.
Yeah. And
Well, speaking of Jason Torn, the intelligent
the
scientist.
guy. Yeah.
How's it going, Jason?
Yeah.
Good. Can you hear me?
Yes,
I can hear you now.
we're clear.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. But
Don't you know atheists aren't trustworthy, Jason Torn?
I don't know about you guys.
I've heard that atheists are.
I know you can trust when they admit to be an atheist, but after that, they're just untrustworthy.
Not a what's the word? Not a
Can I ask,
something narrator.
I want to ask a question. Who is Stephanie Tretton?
oh, you don't know?
I mean,
know-
I don't know. I just know they, whatever. They post some crazy shit in
Oh,
the
yeah.
side
She's,
chat.
I believe she's from across the pond. When I have enough vitamins, sometimes I'll go down some interesting roads with her in the chats.
She is a resident poet. She says all these really
she's
poetic things. Like,
Typically very pleasant. So we
Yeah, she's
just
not
let
offensive
her-
or anything. She's just very out. Her views and her ideas seem almost eccentric.
yeah,
That's
put
a
it-
good way of putting it. Okay.
yeah, she's some kind of a
It's a
hippie
delight to
dippy.
let her practice her muse.
She's a hippie dippy theist.
Is she? She's a theist.
What's she saying here about electrons leaping and creating light? I thought that electrons just heat up the filament because the filament's insufficient to carry them all the time, and so it heats up and that generates light. But I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
You just got to follow her line, her poem from the beginning of the stream to the end, and then you kind of get into the feel.
Yeah, she's very lyrical in her style.
If you want to throw her for a loop, ask her how a candle does the same thing.
Like
She said she's a critic, not a poet. No, you're a poet, Steph.
when I Googled like electron leap, and the first thing that comes up, it says electrons do not leap in space. The term quantum leap is almost universally shunned by scientists as it's highly misleading. So
That's the name of a TV show, right?
yeah,
I ordered the entire series for Quantum Leap.
There's a candle for you.
I'll be back in a sec.
Is it a candle in the wind?
is that a candle burning a Mac?
I had a conversation with her one time, and she may deny this, but I think it was over on Amy Newman's channel. And I might be misremembering, but she made some claim like she doesn't read anything that's in black and white. And I went, "Are you reading the live chat right now?" And that.
Well, you can always do that reverse thing with your Kindle and have white letters on a black background.
Still black and white.
Well, that's true. You're right, man. My brain is not.
It's not black and white anymore. It's white and black now.
White and black, but you. Okay.
Yeah.
Touche. Maybe she does have her.
Touche,
Maybe everything isn't. Maybe she's still using a monitor that's chromatic or something.
Did you guys?
Monochromatic.
I was on a stream. Mark Reed is in the chat. I want to say I love Mark Reed. I think he's awesome. I really enjoy chatting with him. I think he's a super smart guy.
Me too.
He was on I think it was Amy Newman's stream, and there was this guy named Adam Lore.
There's Mark.
Like
I remember that name for some reason.
dude, the guy was like there's some people like they it's not like they're stupid. They're very smart, but they're just like completely. They just have these viewpoints that are just so antithetical to like the
I
way
know.
the world works.
Right.
They're the most dangerous because like they can like spin certain things in a certain way. Like he's like, oh, scientific consensus is like a conspiracy. You can't like he was like saying neo-Darwinian theory is bullshit. That like I just really get irritated at people like that. I was trying to be nice, but
I was talking about that, listening to those two Maddox streams, and I just got this like complete loss of hope for the human race just listening to 8 people talk on the stream.
Which one?
Maddox's after shows, where they were talking about evolution and natural selection, and one of them supposedly is a molecular biologist and working on her PhD. And I'm listening to these people go back and forth, and I'm like, I got to get the fuck off this planet. I just don't want to be here no more.
Well, the other thing is, if you really want to see something interesting, is when you get if you get Christians together in one of those rooms and you bring up salvation.
Oh my God!
And you will see them tear each other apart over their different soteriologies. Sometimes
World War III all over again.
Yeah,
that's why they love the evolution topic, because they all agree with each other on that, right? No matter how
except for the Catholics don't have a problem. They just it's fine.
Yeah, no matter how batshit crazy what they say is, they will not in agreement with each other, even if they know the other person is just totally fucking wrong. But when it comes to salvation, that gets to be a problem.
On this natural selection topic, not to talk about it now, but like I was reading this paper by this guy. His last name's Gregory. I can't remember his first name is, but
about the delusions about natural selection or whatever.
Yeah, well, but he brings up a lot of topics. One of them is like this topic of anthropomorphism and intentionality, and why people like this fallacious viewpoints that people read intention into evolution, which is just so wrong.
Yeah, and it's so goddamn prevalent in the press and even in scientists and teachers talking about it. But the problem, Jason, is not that they don't know any better. The problem is that our language is designed around doing things. That's what we were just talking about, that humans are doers. They're not really thinkers. I mean, it's all about moving things in the world, doing things.
Thinking is doing that.
So we naturally are like, this is happening. Clearly there must be a reason, an intention for this. Yeah. And we naturally anthropomorphize it to be like, it's got to be like a mind. Like that's like a Tangelo's thing. He's just constantly intentionalizing it as a mind. So,
or it's just pattern seeking gone wild.
Yeah. The other thing is what's interesting is that they go from that everything must necessarily come from a mind, as though it's almost as though the mind has to project a reality. And what does that sound like? Solipsism.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's what?
Solipsism.
I guess it sounds to me like people trying to see and understand
in a way
reality through self-perception.
Shit. I was looking at an Go ahead.
Actually, I'm sorry. Yeah. Speaking of self-reflection, I'm going to find the article and I'll post it sometime. It was because somebody by the name of John Lee brought up a study about how he made the claim that based on this study that atheists are less trustworthy than rapists. What the study was about was inherent, what seemed to be kind of like inherent prejudice towards atheists. But it was interesting is when I found the actual study, there were other articles that were linked that were cited along with this. And one of them was a study that atheists are found to be more reflective than their theist counterparts.
Interesting. Oh, I'd like to read all this.
Yeah.
I've got
it, so I can send it. Well, great. The problem is I think they're both behind paywalls. So I was able to read the abstract of the study, but I wasn't able to actually download the full study. It's like I said, it's behind a paywall.
There's ways to find it. I don't like paywalls. They usually hide garbage articles, but this might be an interesting read anyway.
Well, the one from Will Gervais was interesting because John Lee was basically saying it was a Will Gervais and he's an atheist, but you can't find anything about Will Gervais being an atheist because I think he was conflating the last name with Ricky Gervais, the comedian who is an admitted atheist. And Will Gervais doesn't pronounce his last name Gervais. He pronounces it Gervais.
Those look like some nice buns there.
Yeah, they're good buns cooking. That's a frog cooking. Actually, you're not going to get a bun. You're going to get a frog. A xenopus.
Watching frogs made is probably one of the most disgusting things ever.
I was that wasn't the video I wanted, but I was looking at some videos of frogs actually developing in cells, and some of the things going on in cells. You know how they show those nice cartoon pictures, and they love to show you these wonderful machines interacting. When you see the real thing,
what is this video at the top right? He's angry, saying atheism is worthless.
Well, what the fuck is that? What is that one? Tom Brown, atheist, sir, sick. Who's that? Oh, okay, yeah, he does really good stuff. Yeah, yep. That was just a suggestion.
I was also gonna. Is Mark Reed from across the pond? Is he from like Australia or New Zealand?
Yeah.
I think he's Australian, right? Yeah, I was just gonna pick on Mark Reed. I said, yeah, I know Mark Reed from all the times he's had his ass handed to him by praising Gavin Herleman. Wink, wink.
I hate that Gavin Herleman guy. I was on Clubhouse.
I think Mark Reed has had maybe 2 or 3. It might be more debates with Gavin Herleman. And of course, after every debate, Gavin just completely destroyed Mark Reed. And it's just like, here we go.
Yeah. So Leo and I think, debated Gavin, and it was just a shit show. And was it Leo or was it Immutable? It might have been Immutable. And anyway, so Snake was right in that, that debate channel he's got. I think it was him. He said he was looking for somebody to debate Gavin. And I'm like, I'm not your man.
Gavin has trouble keeping his pants on in debates. So
regardless of like the pants thing, I'm just telling you, like I was in Clubhouse, like on a channel. And obviously it was a channel, like he was a mod, like, so it was, already biased. And Concrete, if you know Concrete, he was in there. Concrete's a douche as well. He's one of Darth's minions.
Yeah.
So Concrete and him are on there, and they're running this room, and they're like, we challenge any atheist to refute our 6 positions on why God exists. And like every time somebody would come on there, they would just like ban them or like boot them. So I go on there, and I'm just already pissed, because I'm listening to these guys, and they're running off like these 6 items. Like one of them is like the scientific evidence for God. That's like the first one. I'm like, you don't have any fucking scientific evidence for God. So he's like, I can show you hundreds of peer-reviewed citations. I'm like, send them to me. So he sends me a link to the University of Virginia's perception studies. And I've seen him do this like 10 times to people. Yeah. And it's like University of Virginia's where, like this Grayson guy and Kelly, these guys that publish on out-of-body experiences, of which has no proof of God, he's like, oh, this is proof. I'm like, it's not proof.
It's a perception study. It's a perception study. Yeah.
I mean, and even that, I started to like get a little pissed, and I immediately got booted. I got kicked down to the audience.
I got something. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
No, I'm done. Go for it. Yeah.
Okay. He debated my brother a couple times. Gavin Herleman did. And I think for the one that my brother did with him, Richard Madsen was the moderator. And so in the description for the debate, they gave their sources that they were using. And Gavin gave in one of them, he gave his sources, and it was an exact copy of the first article that's cited on his list. It was all the sources that were from that first article.
Yeah, he just copied the citations from the article.
From somebody else's article. And then that article was also one of the citations that he used. And then one of them later on, and I think it was either that one or it was later on, he actually cited sources, and the links led to the book for sale on Amazon.com.
He's really like not even worth the time. He's so dumb.
Well, he's now persona non grata on Praise's channel because reasons. And what's amazing is they started using that article that a couple of us actually found, but I found it and got a chuckle out of it, where he had sued his wife for the $250,000, his ex-wife for the $250,000 that he gave her. And
what he did with that, right?
Now they're using it.
If you
But you know
Google his
what?
name, that's a top hit. That's
You know what? I was reading about this, and he apparently took $200,000 of that and to offer his ex-wife to go for dinner. So she went for dinner with him, and then he proposed to her, and she said, "I'll get back to you on that." And then she got back to him later and said, "I decided not to remarry you." And then he wanted the $200,000 back, and she said, "No."
Well,
that was a deal from
well,
you.
the report. Okay, so just to
For dinner.
Just to change.
So he sued her in court for it, and the court said, "No, it was a gift. You can't have it back."
Yeah, they actually laughed at him. To change the narrative just a little bit, from what I read, it was they agreed to. They'd already separated. The divorce was already final. The money that he had given her was the money that they split from her selling her home, which was a home that was passed down to her for them to live in. And so she sold it and they split the profits, and then they went to dinner. And then while they were at dinner, he deposited the money into her account as a gift. Then they got back together for about a month. And then she said, "Yeah, this isn't going to work." And then so she split, kept the money. And then he was like, "Well, if I can't," I think he actually he said this in court. If I can't have the money, if I can't have the girl, then I at least want the money.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
That's
And then he tried to appeal. Then he tried to appeal to him working around paint chemicals and being kicked in the head as a amateur fighter.
So I actually feel sorry for him, even though I don't like his behavior in our second debate. The first debate that you pulled up there, he was fine. He was obviously not an experienced debater at that time. I don't think he's gotten much better since then. But at least everything was well behaved. I think it was fine.
He embarrasses the hell out of himself online. Like, this is the thing. Like, people come online, like you just better watch it, man. You go online, you run up against certain people, and you're just gonna look like a dumbass. Like, he just looks like a dumbass half the time.
Well,
and by the way, I wanted to say, you mentioned praise. I don't know if you guys caught that interaction between Leo and Darth on Praise's channel.
Yeah,
my brother did a review of it.
That was great.
That was good.
Leo's like, "You're such a clown. You're such a clown." Oh my god, it was so funny. Darth ran from that so hard.
When we debated Gavin, he was trying to claim to be a doctor, and he was attacking our credentials. The debate was about consciousness, and he was attacking our credentials because he was a doctor. And then I think he put up his degree, and it was some sort of a fucking massage therapist or acupuncture.
Acupuncturist. He's an acupuncturist.
He was the 400th licensed acupuncturist in Australia. And
New Zealand.
Was it New Zealand? Okay.
Gavin lives in New Zealand.
He's starting to call himself
He's
a
in New
doctor
Zealand
because of that. And it's like, I couldn't. And
he
he was a jerk.
Trouble for that.
Praise did a really good job of trying to keep on topic, but Gavin just totally derailed the whole thing. So it was a shit show. It was pretty amazing.
So the acupuncturists are referred to as traditional Chinese medicine doctors, not general MDs.
They're not. Yeah, they're not general practitioners.
No, they're not. And the acupuncturists I know are all clear on this. They don't mislead anybody on it, and they have right on their card TCM as part of traditional Chinese medicine as part of their postnomials. It doesn't say MD at all.
So
and they're not. Yeah, and they're not. And I think some of them even go as far as to say that this is a treatment. This is in the basically from what we've used it for, it helps to benefit in this case, but they never say it's a cure or a solve for anything. It's
very few have that disclaimer. I've not seen that. So
I grew up in the era when you went to the clinic when you were a little kid. The first thing they did to you is give you a penicillin shot, and they hurt like fuck, but everybody got a penicillin shot for sniffles or anything. So my whole goal in life has been to keep doctors and needles away from me. And let me get this. So the acupuncture, that's all they are is needles. I mean, it's like,
man, I love
what the fuck?
It's a little more than that. It's they stimulate them, move them around a little bit too. And
that's even worse.
Yeah,
they actually use.
There's two ways they can do that. One is to manually do it. Another way is to hook up electricity.
Yep.
causes the muscles to shake, and then that causes the movement.
Yeah, my opinion on that is nope.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing. I remember the first. I had an ear infection when I went into basic training. I ended up flying. I didn't even know, but it got worse as I got from Michigan to Fort Benning, Georgia. I had a really bad ear infection, and it drained, and it became a respiratory infection. And I was on Z-Pak and several other different antibiotics, and it just wouldn't go away. And then eventually, when it came time, we got a bunch of these series of shots at reception, and one of them was a nice shot of penicillin right to the butt. Yeah, and that sucker cleared up in like a day.
Yeah.
I was like, this stuff is badass. Yeah. Sucks if you're allergic to it, but penicillin's the bomb.
Yes.
Yeah, the problem is that they
science
give it to
is
everybody.
really cool sometimes.
Yeah. They used to give it, they way overused it back in the 60s and 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, we used it, and then people under-applied it because they didn't use out its like if it was in pills, didn't use out the full prescription.
Yep. Yeah. Same problem. Yep. So, yeah, one of those antibiotics that's really bad to do that with is ciprofloxacin. That fucker, if you don't use it completely, that one can really increase your odds of developing MRSA infections. That sucker's nasty. I can't even. The black box warnings on Cipro is fucking horrible. And I react to it. I get one of the symptoms. It feels like the muscles in my neck and my back are just going to shred in two. It just kills me. I can't take Cipro at all.
So
the antibiotic.
Mark Reed is in the chat, and he does these incredible videos, doesn't he? On is he the one that?
I think you're talking about Tony Reed.
Oh, okay. So it's a different one. Okay.
Am I wrong? He's
yeah, okay, it's Tony Reed. Yeah, I was confusing.
Disregard, Mark. It's not a compliment towards you. You got it wrong.
well, just having the same name as that one. Anyway, so Jason, are you all ready for our talk tomorrow? It's going to be exciting.
I can see he's waiting there with bated breath.
I know we're going to talk about intention.
Like I told you, man. Like I don't consider myself an expert in natural selection. So,
well, all you got to be to understand natural selection is be able to think clearly about reality in the world, and I think you can get a long ways with that. So
I don't know, man. I was looking at several papers on the topic, and like you were saying, there's not to kind of spoil it, but there are lots. Even like, first of all, natural selection is not really taught effectively to kids and even college kids. And there's confusion around the aspects of random mutation processes and then the ecological, the environmental pressures that are going on. And so there's a lot of confusion around that. There's confusion around what fitness actually means. And
a lot of people seem to think that there's an intention to evolve in a certain way, and my understanding is that's not necessarily.
There's a basic confusion between natural selection and evolution, where the two things are often conflated.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we'll talk a little bit. And it's like when somebody says natural selection, it's almost interchangeable with evolution.
See, I think that natural selection is one of the mechanisms utilized by evolution.
Correct.
Okay, I got it right. Hey.
Yeah, we'll get into it. It's kind of a weird abstract, and I think Fodor basically got it all wrong.
See, I knew it. I knew you were going to bring up Fodor. I knew it.
Yeah, he was coming at it.
Should you say that?
He was coming at it from such a naive.
Didn't even have to wait for the conversation for tomorrow. I'm going to make a bet. Okay, $25 says Fodor gets mentioned at least 4 times in the conversation. You've already brought him up now, and it's not even the actual talk.
And you said 3 more times. So you made 4.
Huh?
4?
I mean,
you just named 3 more times. Yep. So that's 4.
So we got to offer a prize for anybody that guesses the number of times we mentioned Fodor. And
that's
Danny's. 2.
Like
how many?
Well, I meant today.
First count 2. Now we're up to 5.
Wait, tomorrow. But hold on.
Tomorrow,
I would like to mention something completely off topic. But Mark Reed is in the live chat, and I don't know if he's chatted with Stephanie before in a live chat, but if he hasn't, he's been sucked in.
Yeah. Anyway, anybody who guesses how many times we say Fodor tomorrow gets, I don't know, 1.3 speed bumps or some fucking.
Okay, I'm going to guess. I'll put my guess as 42.
42 times.
Is Obi-Wan Kenobi on Disney?
Yep.
Sweet. Oh shit! I'm going to watch that tonight.
So what is that?
I'm just going to enthusiastically say it's damn good.
Don't
I
spoil
think
it.
the best of all the Star Wars TV series they've had.
Okay, is it
doesn't
animated?
take much to improve upon the book of that.
No, it's got what's his name, Ewan McGregor in it.
Yeah, Ewan McGregor. It's got Jimmy Spitz, whatever his name is.
Jimmy Smith.
Joel, I think Joel Edgerton's is in an episode because he plays Uncle Owen.
Yeah. He was definitely in the first episode. I don't remember the second as far as his appearance.
Well, yeah, because Joel Edgerton and I can't remember the other actress. They're in the end of the third Star Wars.
As the young Uncle Owen.
Yeah, and whatever her name.
Aunt Veruth
or something like that. But yeah, because Ewan McGregor Ewan McGregor, he as Obi-Wan, he drops Luke off. Yeah. And so you see Joel Edgerton at the end of that. But there was something else. Oh, Stranger Things also dropped
today, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Today. Yeah. Cool.
It's only 7. It's only 7. It's only 7. It's only 7 episodes. It's done in 2 volumes. So there's 7 episodes, and then July 1st there's a second volume.
I'm not really into Stranger Things. I watched the first season, but my kid loves it. So
I'm trying to watch
80s. Yeah, it's an 80s nostalgia.
Yeah, I'm trying to watch A Man Who Fell to Earth, and
it's pretty good.
It's got a lot of really good things about it, but I'm having a little trouble with plot holes.
Well, the anxiety in the show is ridiculous. Like when the one episode where he's having like a panic attack, and then he realizes that humanity, because from where he's from, he tells her, he goes, "In my planet, we understand one another. He goes, you people endure one another." It is magic.
What show is this? What movie?
Man Who Fell to Earth.
It's got Chewie I4. He was in he's been in a lot of stuff.
Are there only four episodes? Is that all?
No, I haven't kept up. That was the last one I watched, was episode 4.
Yeah, that's the last one that's out. It has been over 2 weeks since they dropped one. So
yeah, because it's based off of, it's a remake of the David Bowie movie, which is based on a sci-fi novel.
Yep.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But it's like it follows from. It actually is. It's not a remake. It actually follows from the original movie.
What, you talked to who last night, Andrew Cumming? What the fuck is wrong with you?
Is he confessing his guilt?
Why would you talk to Praise about anything? I don't.
There he is.
Danny.
There's Danny.
Hey, I just want to say, my wife and I start watching Raised by Wolves because you recommended it.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I haven't watched the second season.
Muted.
It starts off slow, but it's actually really interesting. You made a great recommendation. Thank you.
I got it. Stranger Things, Obi-Wan, and that.
You're muted, Danny. We can't hear you.
Well, that's the way I want them.
Oh, come on.
Oh.
No, his audio's out even when he's not muted by StreamYard.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell.
He's
trying to fix it. He's trying to fix it.
Thank you very much for that recommendation. That was great.
Oh, you found a soccer and have it banned?
I got through the first season and I found it. I got to the very end and I found it very unsatisfying.
Talking about Raised by Wolves?
Yeah, and then
it starts out slow, but you're just like WTF throughout the whole thing. What in the world is going on, right?
Yeah. And then when you get to the second season, from what I've read, I haven't watched the final episode yet, but what I heard from around the internet, the second season didn't end as well as people hoped it would end. So
really,
yeah, I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah, I haven't. Like I said, I haven't watched. I've watched everything. I think the 8th episode is the last episode. I think they only did 8 episodes for the second season, didn't they?
I have so much to owe to that show because all the philosophical arguments lent itself to atheism, but a lot of my intuitions teeter-tottered. But after I watched Raised by Wolves, now my intuitions are in line with my philosophical commitments.
Really?
Because of
I
that
will
show.
say this, though. The way they present atheists, it's as if there's some kind of expectation inherent in how atheists are supposed to behave, and I have a problem with that part of it.
That's what it looks like.
I find it very interesting.
That's what it
Pardon?
looks like, and it doesn't end up being that way. That I think Scott and I talked about this.
Yeah.
That it almost sounded like propaganda, like in a
Yeah.
kind of propaganda, like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, ham-fisted atheism.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not
something
like
like
that.
that,
It reveals that that's a naive mindset to have. That if you just drop this religion, this the Mithraic belief, then we should have the ideal society, and it just does not turn out that way.
Yeah.
Well, we're probably going to watch some more tonight, and we almost watched a third episode, but it was just getting so late. It was tempting, though.
Yeah,
can also-
it's one of my favorite
It draws
shows.
you in.
Another one to watch is Outer Range. That's got some theological.
I kind of like Outer Range.
I started Outer Range. It's a little slow, but
It is.
I like,
it's
but
intriguing.
I like Outer Range more than I like. I'm not saying Raised by Wolves is bad, or even The Man Who Fell from Earth, but I liked Outer Range better than the two.
I'm glad to see Father came back. Yeah, but we're only in the second episode.
You know who I talked to for about an hour and 30 minutes? Taylor to the
Oh shit! How'd that go?
Taylor who?
She was very sweet, and she actually has a down-to-earth conception of God, a very down-to-earth. I don't want to misrepresent herself, to be very careful. First of all, she admits she doesn't know any squat about philosophy. She's admitted that. So I tried to stay away from that. I tried to make my concerns as relatable as possible. And I kind of told her like some of my concerns might be very unconvincing, but she understood some of what I had to say, and to the extent that she thinks God is much more human-like than the God of the philosophers. So he can regret things, he can deliberate, he can weigh his reasons, that kind of stuff.
So she leans more almost to classical theism or open theism.
Well, yeah, she leans towards like the kind of God that you can relate. I think at some point I'm like, it's going to be I said, Taylor, it's going to be very hard to differentiate your God and something like one of the not titans of the Marvel universe, but one of the creators of the Marvel universe. What are they? Does anybody know the Marvel universe in a way where like there's these beings, right?
The
Well, there were the Eternals, but then there were the ones that
the
basically
Celestials.
were embryos
The
inside of
Celestials.
planets.
It's the Celestials.
I said I'm gonna have a hard time differentiating these celestial-like beings that created the Marvel universes, from your God. And she said, well, actually, it might be the case that God is like these beings. And I'm like, oh, at that point, there's not much philosophical concern. It's just, it's as plausible as someone's story that they got abducted by aliens. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
When we got to that point of the conversation, there was a lot of respect I had because the God of Christian apologetics is just so like out there that I can't accept that. But at least it's somewhat coherent to think of God as like a celestial being, like in the Marvel cinematic or universe.
So she thinks that God is like is part of the natural world. He's not supernatural.
She wouldn't. I don't think she would say that, but she would say that God is over and over. The way she defined God is a mind that created the universe and explains why there's life. That's how she basically defined it. Okay,
Danny, where did this talk happen?
Oh, I did it private. She said she was fine with live streaming it, but I was scared that she had never heard any of these questions and these concerns.
Right.
So I wanted to create the environment where she could just say what she wanted.
Danny, next time you should record it and then ask them afterwards if they're okay with it going public.
Yeah.
And then
well, the good thing is that I connected her with Rebecca. So
are we talking about the same person, the Taylor that's a molecular biologist?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so I connected her with Rebecca, and now she's going to be interviewed by Rebecca, and she said she still wants to talk to atheists. So, Speed, you can invite her. But I'll just emphasize that she said that this is the first time she's ever entered a scene like this. She's not part of the. She said she debates sometimes on Twitter, but it's like anti-vaccine stuff.
Yeah.
But she's not very.
Anti-vaccine or pro-vaccine?
She's anti-vaccine.
Ah,
So
She's
why
a-
don't you send me her email address at some point?
She does not. Do you have Twitter? She said to communicate
I do.
with her through Twitter. I asked
Yeah.
for an email address.
I'm following her on Twitter, so I'll ask.
Yeah, she said
her.
just message her there.
Okay.
But yeah, no, she's very sweet. You can't. I wouldn't advise going hard on her because she.
I know. I don't want to, but damn it, I was listening.
No,
to
I don't fall for that stuff. I'm sorry. Like I'm like no. I'd go just as hard on her as anybody else. I don't really care.
Yeah, but
Again,
okay.
why-
Yeah, I guess what I mean by hard is like I'm like I bracket a lot of issues with her. Like, okay, well, there's an issue. Let's just put that on the side. It was like if we had a bunch of books of all these problems, we shelved so many of them as to just have a good conversation.
Did she say why she wants to speak with
So it's almost
atheists?
like a conversation over dinner where you just don't want to blow up the dinner.
Yeah, that's how I
You
felt.
want to be charitable. You want to build a rapport with that person before just jumping right in and then going, "Yeah, you're a fucking retard." By the way,
Yeah, because there was a point where she said multiple times, like, "Oh, I understand what you're saying. I get where you're coming from. I don't want to judge you for those beliefs." When I said that I was either skeptical or these were my reasons, I gave her the problem of evil. But I think that if she's not an omni person, then again, we got a celestial in our hands. And there was one other thing. Oh, she was, as far as citing why she's a Christian, she's very persuaded by the historicity of the Bible and the coherency of it.
Okay.
There's a lot of stuff that people would probably lose their minds over in chat because she cited how the Bible has recommendations like washing your hands and stuff like this that she thinks that was ahead of its time, scientifically. She has those views. I didn't challenge any of it, but I know some people would love to challenge
Did she happen to say why she wants to speak with atheists?
I think she's one of those I want to get to know your perspective type of people, and she felt like that to me.
I'd be happy to speak with her.
Well,
Yeah, I think
I don't know how to contact her though.
Twitter.
Twitter.
Okay.
Tell her to come to your Discord Sunday Discord.
That's a good idea.
Oh, for fuck's sake, no! Don't put her in that goddamn fucking pit.
Hey, man.
It's not really a pit, is it?
Let JL
It's a
Warren
fucking
come in.
It's a gladiator pit.
I love it. Let
It's actually
JL,
it's like the pit where the gladiators go when they're not good gladiators.
JL will not go light on her.
Sorry, Randolph. I'm just
JL
having some fun at the expense.
Warren?
JL Warren.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine.
You don't like JL
It's
Warren?
remedial gladiator school.
Why don't you like JL?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
We've had argument. He's muted me a few times.
Oh, really?
No, he's like
Really?
I mean, I don't know. He's probably
Muted?
good against like white belt theists, and that kind of stuff. But no,
I don't know of anyone who's muted you before, Danny. Especially no one on here.
No one
Sorry,
here
what?
would mute Danny.
Speed.
I would never try to censor Danny.
As he just mutes him.
I had to get on an account. I think all my main accounts are banned.
That's right. I will point to that elephant in the room. No problem. See that elephant right there?
I pay for 2 terabytes of storage on Google, and I used it up banning you.
Yeah, I know.
Basically, yeah, 2 terabytes.
What?
Yep.
So, what do you think about Leo's comments that you're just confused? Speed. I'm gonna stir the pot here.
Oh, Leo's got some explaining to do.
What's he confused about?
And natural selection, apparently.
Life.
I remember Leo saying that.
Yeah.
It was on the stream last night, wasn't it?
Was it last
on-
night?
It was on that fucking shitty stream. What is it called?
No, he's
Gur
mad.
Streams?
He's mad.
Gur Streams or something like that. I can't remember what it was.
I don't actually know what your exact position is on natural selection.
Yeah.
We don't have to talk
You'll
about
find
it.
out. You'll find out tomorrow.
You'll find out tomorrow.
Gotta say,
What's
be
tomorrow?
careful, Danny.
Oh, you got a video
Danny.
coming up?
Danny,
I'm
be
gonna
careful.
talk. I'm gonna talk to him
Don't
about
push
natural
speed.
selection tomorrow.
Don't push speed too far, Danny. You might lose your LA privileges.
Yeah, you're gonna be you're banned tomorrow, Danny. I don't want you around. I don't want you in chat. I don't want to see your
remember-
fucking face. I do not. You oversleep tomorrow. Stay the fuck.
And remember,
What time will it be?
Speed does have a scientism altar, and one of the things that's key in that
10
altar,
o'clock
along with the
Central.
incense, is the natural selection shit.
Yeah. So
He
I'm gonna
sacrifices
try to
a
tune
rat
into that
to it.
tomorrow morning.
Alex Rosenberg is the only other person I've heard admit to scientism and be proud of it. And so I'd love to talk. I seem to agree with a lot that man says.
Yeah, you probably like Rosenberg. I emailed him to interview him, and he said, "I'm getting too much emails for interviews." Did you email him? He's receptive now, more receptive than he was a year ago. So you might, because he appeared on one of my friends. You saw it on Friction. That's where you saw the clip. Yeah, so you might want to email him. I don't think there's anything for me to talk about.
Who just timed Danny out in the side chat? Was that a different Danny? Or
how many Dannys are there?
I don't know. Was it
Ox did it? Ox, what you?
Yeah, Ox, I don't know. Whatever. Ox is kind of like, a red flag is if you make.
It seems like a moot point at this part, right, Ox? I mean, he's already in here. Come on,
Randolph. So John showed her Twitter, but he didn't put it. Well, wait a minute. Okay, I got a link. Here we go.
What's this about?
Taylor's Twitter account.
Oh, thank you. Okay, yeah, I just put it.
Maddox put it out there. Here we go. I'll put it in
private chat.
Yeah,
it's like Taylor V or something. Taylor RV.
Taylor Vickner, her name is, or something. Yeah. Taylor _ V.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, I put it in there so you can follow.
I'm going to be doing. I hope to get it rendered or get it edited tonight to get it out there. But I've got a video recorded. Mentioned this.
Otangelo's here. Otangelo's in the side chat.
Oh, break out the crosses and the garlic.
Hey, I wanted to say one thing. Otangelo, I'll agree with Speed on this. Otangelo, what was with the spamming of that big ass email that you sent out to everybody? I didn't quite understand.
Yeah, he started spamming people in the fucking debate thread. I couldn't believe that he did that.
Was that Taylor's thread?
No.
Yeah.
Didn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, Taylor's thread. Yeah.
It was
Ian Taylor. Yeah, I don't know.
There we go. That's Otangelo's new song.
I mean, I know Otangelo's position, but I don't know why you would send that out to everybody. I mean,
why is he spamming people about evolution in the fucking email about a debate channel? I don't understand.
I mean, if he wants to debate that topic, he could be like, "Hey, I want to debate this topic. Somebody want to debate me? Then let's do it."
It's the way. It's basically his way of basically wrapping up all of his ideas, rolling them up real tight, and beating people across the head with it to see if it'll actually sink in. At least that's from me thinking maybe to his intentions. I don't know.
Right. Hey guys, we got a shooter in the head.
Oh,
Taylor's texting me, guys.
Who's texting you?
Taylor.
Really?
You got a new friend.
I have a new
friend.
Hey, Danny, she's close by.
So
I don't know where she is. Where is she?
Danny,
I don't want to. I'll put it in the side chat.
Oh no! Don't tell me if you're not supposed to tell me. I'll ask her.
Okay,
well,
Danny,
I know where she's from, but I don't want to.
Yeah,
I don't want to say
common knowledge.
So link her to my channel, Danny.
Okay, right now.
Oh, don't do that.
Yeah,
poor lady.
Well, not. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Poor lady. I'm gonna be nice to her, but
look at
I have some issues.
Danny.
I have some real issues. Okay, I want to shoot this in the head.
Everybody agrees, Speed. You have real issues. That's too easy. I'm sorry.
Hi, Jay. It's Jay. Somewhere for Jay, man.
Fucking Jay. God damn, we got rid of that shit.
Sorry.
Anyway, you know what happens. You know what happens, Jay.
Is anybody gonna go over to Gur's stream later?
I might, just to take over again.
Is he having a fucking stream right now?
I think he's having it after yours.
6.
Yeah.
I think he's just waiting for you to end, and then he's going to
he'll
start.
probably start early if we end early.
Okay, guys, we're going to end. So we're going to shoot her in the head. Anybody have any last words?
I just want to say Eric is very intelligent because he says, I agree with Scott earlier, Obi-Wan is great.
Okay, I'm going to go watch that. And make
I think so, Danny. Yeah.
Okay. Goodbye, cruel world.